Hi, I'm Shari Rudolph, CEO of the Charity Hub, the social enterprise that turns excess inventory into cash donations for charities. I'm here today with Claudia Freed, who is the CEO of nonprofit EALgreen, who is also a Charity Hub partner. And today we're going to explore a few topics, including some of the big issues that our organizations are tackling, the importance of partnership and collaboration, and how creative and innovative thinking are really necessary to uncover new solutions in complex and rapidly changing environments. Claudia, thank you so much for joining me. It's always such a pleasure to speak with you.
It is an honor for me to be here in your company and in the company of your listeners and partners. And personally, it's just a joy to connect with thought leaders like yourselves and you and Dave, who are really inviting organizations like EALgreen to be part of this complex ecosystem and doing good together.
Thank you. And yes, you said that very well. It is a complex ecosystem, and we're going to talk about that a lot today. But where I want to start is just a little bit about EALgreen. So typically, I think people are used to hearing about nonprofits asking for support in the form of cash donations. But for EALgreen, that's a little bit of a different story. It's not really the case. The real opportunity for you is in product donations. So can you just tell us a little bit about EALgreen's mission to get us started?
We like to think about EAL as a responsible solution for what is really a big problem today. That problem is about $846 billion. If we look at the statistics from the National Retail Federation. When we started in 1982, so 43 years ago, that problem didn't really have a dimension like it has today. It didn't have the visibility that it has today. It started in 1982 when two colleagues wanted to find a meaningful way to pay it forward or to give back to society and to the universe. They had both gone to college, as they like to say, on other people's money. And they came up with this idea that what if donor companies that were dealing with excess inventory could donate the products to a nonprofit charity like EAL, and that EAL then will find partners in higher education that could use those products on their campus. So the concept of generating value from in-kind donations stems from 43 years ago for us. That has been our model. And we have tweaked the model a little bit, but really the essence of what we do is really, as you said, transform or convert in-kind donations, which is the language that is used for product donations, into value. And we can talk a little bit about how that value is being redefined in now this age of AI and circular economy. So we focus on converting excess inventory into scholarships for students with financial need.
It's an incredible mission, and the impact is so tangible, not just for the students who are beneficiaries of the program, but ultimately what they do with their education once they're out of school, right? And having access to something that they might not have otherwise. So the impact is so clear. And what I also really love about the model is that it's such a great demonstration for corporations that it's not always just about writing checks to charities. There are so many other creative ways that they can support nonprofit missions for social good, for environmental good. And I think, the EAL mission kind of checks all of those boxes really, really well. So let's dig in a little bit more on the in-kind donations, as you said, the product donations. So tell me a little bit more about why that's so important to EAL. And you indicated, the sort of shifting or evolving value of those goods. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
The really interesting point that you made in terms of the actual tangible benefit of a model like EAL in this case. And I must share with you and your audience the wild connection that I have to this model. And the fact is that I am living proof of the social transformation that can happen when you give someone like a college student that has financial need an opportunity to get a scholarship. I went to college because a generous corporation donated 2 motors. That was the in-kind contribution that they made, which was then given to a college here in Illinois, converted into scholarship. And that scholarship was given to me, with which I went to earn a degree in economics. And who would have thought that I would be here back at EAL, the very entity that changed my life. Like Claudia, there have been 25,000 other students that have been able to receive financial aid because of this model that takes donated products. And to your question, why is it important? There are business priorities, I should say, that for anyone that is in a small, medium, large enterprise, there's always a way that you want to differentiate what value proposition you are trying to solve. If we were like anyone else, it would be, I think, a little challenging to survive for almost 4.5 decades in business. So knowing that our strength has always been in managing physical goods, we are very effective in dealing with this product donations space, whereas there are other brothers and sisters in the nonprofit world that are very effective in managing transformational millions of dollars in cash. So what I believe and what I think the culture here at EAL is that everyone can develop a strength in a particular sector of this economy. And when you are able to optimize that, then you become very good at what you're doing. And that is what attracts trust, transparency, and all the values that we're going to talk in a little bit about. For us, the issue of product donations as a multi-agent for solving not only environmental issues, but also creating social value is an effective way of doing what we know how to do. And we are always grateful that Dan and Sweet, our founders, thought of this idea.
Absolutely. There's such an incredible amount of opportunity, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the environment and just how much opportunity there is and how that's shifted. A couple of things that you talked about really struck me. I love the phrase social transformation because that's exactly right. And I think for mission-driven organizations, whether they're nonprofits or maybe for-profits, right? And as the case with the Charity Hub, we're a for-profit social enterprise. But that goal of social transformation is such an important piece of what we're all trying to achieve. And this model shows that it's so doable and so achievable in ways that companies and individuals might not think about until they see the case studies. And again, I love your story. You're the perfect case study. You are the demonstration of how this really worked. And not only are you at EALgreen, but you're running the show. And that is just such an incredible full circle. So one of the realities is that sometimes nonprofits are offered products, in-kind donations that they can't use for whatever set of reasons, right? That can be a bit of a challenge for nonprofits. So tell us a little bit about how does EAL look at that? Like, why might you not be able to take a product, and why might you want to look at, another solution to leverage that relationship in a way that aligns with your mission?
I have to take you back a little bit to when I came to EAL, right? So I came to EAL as their executive director and then eventually as their CEO, which is a title that you and I shared in our organizations. So in the first few years of my career here, the entire concept of collaboration was really uncomfortable because there is a system that is kind of like a code where people don't share information, people don't share leads. But quickly, I realized that the way that I could and our team at EAL could continue to march toward this goal of shared value was to serve our customers and our donors to the best of our ability. And what I discovered, and I am sure a lot of other people realize this, that you can serve your customers by avoiding a headache, meaning, hey, no, we cannot take that product because, that elephant with three legs or that table that doesn't have the top is I cannot do anything with it. You can say no. However, you can also say, and I can't do it, but I know just who can help you. And that was really the genesis of why we developed the network of referrals. And it's never about the slice of the pie that you can get. For EAL, if we cannot handle a particular challenging situation, and why can we not accept everything? It could be the product is in the wrong part of the world. Not that there is anything wrong with the world, because I'm from Argentina, so I love the world. But geographically and logistically, if a product is in a location overseas, we will lean into the opportunity with somebody that has that capability. If a product is something that is perishable, we will definitely work with our friends in the food bank world because we don't handle perishables. So the idea of collaboration for us is very practical. Is how do we serve that donor that is trying to do the right thing and understanding what are EAL's both capabilities and limitations. That is what opens the door to finding shared solutions and avoiding the product, whatever that might be, to end up in a landfill, which is what no one wants.
Yeah, exactly. I think that notion of shared solutions is so powerful, and a lot of organizations do that really well, but there's still a lot of organizations that will put barriers up, real or imagined, and maybe for various reasons. Maybe it is to protect what they perceive to be a limited set of resources and their access to them, to protect or defend a market position. But there's so many great opportunities. And I think, let's get into this next, talking about the complexity of this environment that we're in. So it's clear that there's not one single solution, or it can't be one single organization, or even maybe even one single sector that can tackle this complexity. So shared solutions coming together with sort of, openness. We'll talk a little bit about partnerships in a minute and what makes a really strong partnership. But really I think it's interesting because both of our organizations exist in a similar ecosystem and environment, and because of a lot of the same dynamics, right? And so, but we're doing different things in that space. And I really truly believe, and I think we've been able to demonstrate it working together, that the sum is greater than the individual pieces, right? And it's a really, really powerful model and opportunity for us. But we're in a really messy, complex, kind of sometimes ugly, unpredictable environment. It can be really chaotic. But within chaos, there's often opportunity for those who are able to translate the chaos and simplify the chaos. So when we look at the chaos that we're in, you already indicated a couple of data points. So, well over $800 billion in customer returns each year in the US alone. That's from the National Retail Federation. There's a study that's a couple of years old now that indicates that about $160 billion goes to waste in the forward supply chain. So overproduction that maybe gets sent to landfills or somehow destroyed. So ultimately what we're looking at is a $1 trillion problem in the US alone with all of these excess goods. And there's a lot of reasons for that in terms of, companies have done a really great job providing a lot of choice to consumers. And we have embraced that as consumers, and we're buying more than we ever did before. And so there's more product in the system than ever before. At the same time, in the US alone, there's almost 40 million people who are living below the poverty line. And the poverty line is defined as about $28,000 a year of income for a family of four. So that 40 million is something, but there's millions and millions more people who are living very close to the edge. So we have all this stuff. We have more need in our communities than we've had before. And with all of those dynamics, there's a lot of opportunity for the private sector and the nonprofit sector and the public sector even to come together to do some interesting things. So Tell me a little bit about how you view this ecosystem, maybe some of the notions of circularity and how this plays into EAL's mission and what you're doing, and your overall perceptions on what we should be doing better or different.
Really interesting framework for thinking what is the context of what is happening in the economy and in this particular space that we exist, which is the larger framework is obviously the goal of improving impacts for the environment, for society, and for transparency and trust. So the ESG framework. So when we think about that, the idea that companies want to do the right thing. They understand that there are many opportunities to do good. One way is that they can write a check. Another way is that they can share their talent and resources. Pro bono teams are all over the industry right now, providing support and capacity building to nonprofits. So pro bono help is quite tangible and it's very effective, as well as sharing space and marketing opportunities. In-kind donations is another tool that the corporations have today to fulfill not only their own mandates and vision, but also the consumers' expectations. One of the things that it's clear in the circular economy is that the consumer is even a bigger participant, particularly when we think about AI-driven platforms that are trying to connect surplus materials directly with the consumer. The European market has several apps that connect surplus food that is coming out of supermarkets, putting right into the community, the block. In your block, there are these things that you can buy at a discount. So it is a very inclusive moment in designing these new systems that are going to be looking at how do we address that $1 trillion problem, while there is a notion, obviously, that corporations are built to create profit. And this is a solution. And that's why one of the areas that I am very curious about as well is with the movement of conscious capitalism. And the conscious capitalism movement, it does try to at least begin to inspect what are all these levers between society and governance and environmental impacts. The way that we see the world at EAL is that when a product is given or offered to us, let's take an example of the transaction that we completed with the help of your team. A company had product that otherwise may have been appropriate for our college campuses, but it happened to be in a location where we don't have a presence. We don't have the ability to transport. In this case, there were furniture, desks, and box kind of thing that you would find in a fine office or in a fine student center. So you could have a matrix, if you will, of the right product in the wrong location or the wrong product in the right location. So that is where you say, well, let me make a referral. So one of the characteristics of this supply chain in the circular environment that we live today is really this ability to think broadly about the issues, to think about, we'll talk a minute about what I think are the must follow rules in this circular economy to make a successful partnership, because almost now, in my 30 years, I could say that almost now in the last 2 or 3 years, there are almost every opportunity is almost unique. Let me take you back momentarily. During the pandemic, the airline industry saw a complete decline of their of demand for their services. People were not flying, very limited. So you have to think about the logistics. What do the major airlines do with all the yogurt cups, all the peanuts that they give in the plane? And we were called in to try to help solve the product, provide a solution for a product that happened to be a perishable serving of yogurt, thousands and thousands of units. Again, that was a referral situation because we don't really handle yogurt. On another occasion, another airline, I had a lot of what they call the soft goods in the cabin. When an aircraft is upgraded, sometimes the little tablecloth or the blanket that you get in first class, that is no longer fitting the aircraft. And that has lived its useful life. Again, we were invited to come in. And in that particular occasion, we teamed up with a recycler that was able to convert that soft product into the filling that goes into pillows. So there are a lot of solutions, and that is one of the areas where I think that the circular economy, the supply chain that is focusing on sustainability is exploding. There is an explosion of solutions. That's why trust and transparency and relationships like the one that we have built between the Charity Hub and EALgreen are so powerful.
Yeah, the example that you just outlined about repurposing the first class airline blankets into stuffing for pillows. I am constantly amazed by the innovation that I'm seeing, around us and in the circular economy, right? And the notion that the notion of circularity and how important that is, and moving away from the more traditional linear business models. And what it does is it opens up a lot of creative outlets for people to do things differently and to find breakthroughs, turning blue jeans into house insulation, turning blankets into pillow stuffing, right? There's an endless list of examples of what people are doing. And I think our organizations, while we may have a very narrowly defined role in the circular economy, it's so important because we are making sure we're extending the useful lives of usable goods. We're driving social impact in really tangible ways. Like you said, the phrase social transformation is so critical and so key here. So this world of circularity, I think, there's maybe still too few of us who are really understanding it and really learning, right? There's so much to learn. But working together, I think we can start to share what those principles are. So you did tease us with what your rules are for a good partnership in the circular economy. So we definitely want to cover that.
I've been thinking for a long time about how did I get here? How did I myself get here? From Argentina, a curious young student. I came as an exchange student from Argentina. I received a scholarship that changed my life. So how did I get here? And a lot of times I go back to thinking about what are the core principles of how we either live our lives or how we run our businesses. And that's why I like lists, and I like lists that I remember. So they're short lists, and I can focus on that because that becomes really the foundation that drives both the people and culture in your work environment, and also your ability to lead as a leader. We are constantly being asked to prioritize things, so it's very helpful in my particular case. A, I never forget where I came from, and B, what have been some of the principles, and I try to apply that to decisions that we make here at EAL and with our partners. And there are like 3 rules that we must follow, right? So when it comes to particularly the circular economy, we all came from an industry, I'm sure you can relate, that when you were starting a strategic partnership, the operating principle was a shared vision. Well, let me tell you that it's perfectly fine to state a shared vision, but now I think that in 2025 and beyond, that has translated into shared value creation. So when we think about shared vision, it's all encompassing. It's really broad, but narrowing it down to, is this decision that I am about to make going to create shared value? And what does that mean? There's got to be a tangible win for everybody. Tangible win. It could be cost reductions. It could be brand enhancement if you're a brand. It could be social or environmental impact. But there's got to be a tangible benefit. It's not you win, I lose, I win, you lose. It is a tangible benefit. This idea of a shared vision in a partnership, it's got to be expected that it should be a shared value creation. Can we, as you said at the beginning, are the two together more valuable than each of us doing things independently? The second, an important thing is really now, today more than ever, but it's always been present, is the impact of technology in what we are doing. We can talk all day about AI and what AI is doing in terms of generating platforms, increasing the speed, the accuracy, the scale, the analytics. AI is here to stay. So thinking about a rule that you must follow is think about technology, and you really need to be thinking the future. There's nothing in the past that is going to help you. So be brave, embrace AI, find the right partners to help you. EAL partners with Oracle and NetSuite in the area of AI, and we're very excited about that ability. So the role of technology in this shared value creation. And above all is this idea of the two T's, the transparency and the trust. AI can help with the transparency. AI also can help you with trust enablement, because things like analytics and metrics hold the entities accountable. The transactions that we complete between the Charity Hub and EAL, they have to be governed by a tax receipt, a donation accountability, a acknowledgement of where does the value creation come from and how you are tracking. So for us, when we think about a decision that we make at EAL, we always think about, is it creating value for either a college or a university or a corporate donor or a partner in the marketplace? What role can technology play to make life easier, to be easy to do business with? That's what everyone wants. And then don't let that take over. You still need to pick up the phone and say, Shari, how about we see each other at a conference? Are you going? So that human connection will develop trust and transparency, because in business, things will go wrong at some point. And when you have that relationship, you can both recover quickly to get back on to do what we do very best. So that, to me, is where my thinking is in terms of how do we need to actualize and update these concepts that we have about what it means to partner in the circular economy, and what are the things that will be, as we call it here at EAL, our boundary conditions.
So I like the framing of creating shared value. And I think you're right. That's much more meaningful than just saying a shared vision. Right. That's important, but that really sort of brings it down to things that are much more actionable in terms of how do you create a win for everybody. That's in the mix, and that's important. And the trust and transparency pieces are such important building blocks, and those are values that are really important to us at the Charity Hub also. And I think those are going to serve both our organizations really well. Obviously, as we work together, but also as we're working with other partners, because as we said earlier, we're in a space that's pretty complex and pretty messy, and there can be a lot of opacity, and you don't necessarily know the movement of goods. It's easy to lose sight or lose control of the movement of goods. And for a brand partner, that can be really risky. So I think for organizations like us who are very in tune with that, and we're managing those things, and we can demonstrate our commitment to transparency and therefore building trust. It's so important.
Shari, and you raise an interesting point, which we don't often discuss, and maybe this is the time to have a little bit of a discussion, which is understanding how valuable the product that these brands distribute or manufacture, the value that they have. And that's why the focus on the conversion of that into returns our revenue in some circles, right? We convert that to cash and benefit both, in some cases, the liquidator or the brand. The idea that the trust and transparency I come from an era where 43 years ago, when EAL was started, and then 30 since I have been here with the organization, there is a need and an expectation of protecting the benefactor. I mean, protecting the donating companies that are willing and able and capable of doing in-kind donations to help the world. And the least that the organization can do is treat that brand with the respect that it needs. And that sometimes requires being very quiet about the generosity that some of these brands have, because it is in their best interest to continue to focus on the things that they are doing as a corporation. So it is very important that when anyone is forging a strategic partnership, is to secure a good understanding about that element, that dimension of a partnership, because there are some partnerships that absolutely would benefit or would like to have a lot of visibility. There are brands that would say, we want to focus on our forward supply chain, not so much on the reverse. Create value. But my point is that it's really important to show that in that trust and transparency, that is where at the very beginning, when I say create a shared value, it's important to align on the vision. The vision hasn't gone away and it's not less important, but the shared value creation where both partners say, this is how we are going to tangibly benefit. And then you check in once a year, once a month. You align because, as you said, the world is so dynamic right now that you can't have a 3-year plan, really.
Yeah, that's true. We put our plan together for this year and it's already changed, and you have to be open to that. And the same.
And hopefully bigger and better,
yes,
right? Bigger and better.
Exactly. So you have to be open to that, the opportunities. You have to be open to the change. You have to be able to react and pivot, to use an overused word, but it's true. You have to be prepared to be able to do that. And as far as partnerships go, I think all those principles apply as well. And you pointed out something that is so important. Not every partnership is the same, and not every partner wants the same things out of it or values the different elements at the same levels. And so to remember that you need to calibrate the partnership for the stakeholders to deliver what's ultimately helpful for them. And your example of not everybody wants to talk about the good stuff that they're doing. And that can seem counterintuitive, but when you peel back the onion a little bit and understand some of the reasons, it becomes really clear on how that aligns with their strategy. So let's talk a little bit about how we've been working together. And I think it's such a great case study because when you think about it at a high level, it can look like we're competing for the same resources, right? We are looking for excess goods at the highest level. But that's just the highest level. And beneath that umbrella, there's so much more nuance and detail that needs to be unpacked to understand, what the real opportunity here is. And we've talked a little bit about some of the elements of a good partnership and the notion of strategic alliance, creating shared value, and all of those things are so important. I have found that, for us, the most productive way to look at this is that we want our work to be additive and complementary. And we talked about the $1 trillion problem of $1 trillion of excess goods in the American ecosystem every year. So there's also enough to go around for everybody, right? There's plenty out there for all of us to do what we're doing and to achieve our goals. So we have a couple of proof points that we've been working together on, and we're happy with how things are unfolding. And you've referred some products to us. We've been able to generate some charitable funds for EALgreen and your mission. Talk to me a little bit about what your goals were and are going into a partnership or even a single opportunity like this. How do you frame it? How do you evaluate it?
The partnership with the Charity Hub it's very strategic as well, and one that we hope will continue to grow. But let me put it into context of how it fits into this model. So when a donor offers EAL products, we will inspect the product. once we accept it, obviously. And there are actually 3 channels that we will use in order to generate value. One of the most unique characteristics about the EAL model is that we are entirely self-funded. So, for example, we don't sell our services to customers. We don't receive support from federal agencies or state agencies. So we don't have a grant writer, which is unusual for a nonprofit, because 100% of our support comes from the in-kind donations. It makes us proud and also gives me the gray hairs sometimes because it's a way to keep everybody doing the job and do it well and do it quickly because our self-funding model requires that. Now, we have a wonderful board of directors and we do have a very healthy reserve, but the idea is that when a product comes in, we have an evaluation formula. And we look at utility and we look at condition. Based on those 2 things, which is where AI is coming in quickly and fast, because AI now is able to diagnose condition very quickly. I was just sitting in another webinar a couple of days ago where AI is really now the number 1 resource for diagnostics of whether or not you recycle a cell phone. So it's happening very, very fast. But for EAL, we do this in our fulfillment centers, and we will look at whether or not a product can be reused. It will need to either be repaired, repackaged, or resold, or it has to be recycled. Not everyone can handle the type of product that we sometimes receive because we are mostly focused on industrial infrastructure, machinery, supplies, hand tools. Think of a college campus as being a small city. So we focus on industrial things like snow blowers or hand tools. So for us, our unique niche is that we are looking for inventory that can be deployed to a college campus because that is what is used as an engine for that scholarship. But when that product, as you cited earlier, where we had the furniture that was available to us, but we didn't have the resources to create value out of our geography, we translated that into a cash donation, which goes into that second channel, which is what funds the nonprofit operations. Now, let me tell you, speaking of my board, about 13 years ago, the board of directors looked at that reserve that we were generating, and they said, we are not ever going to become a foundation, like a private foundation. Our goal is to create shared value. Our goal is to help colleges and universities and transform lives through scholarships. That's our mission. How about we create a formula for funding our own model, and anything above and beyond that formula should go back to colleges and universities in the form of an additional contribution to their scholarship funds. And 13 years ago, we made the first donation. The whole bucket of money for donations was only $50,000. However, we focused on that because we were executing as a shared value proposition. And today, for the last 6 years, every year we have been able to generate $1 million in cash from that channel to which you are part of that generates value so that we can go back and give colleges and universities not only a snowblower for their campus, but a nice check to go and then award scholarships to students with financial need.
It's fantastic. It's such a smart model, and it's creative and I think unexpected for so many people who aren't aware of the dynamics or haven't really been exposed to it. But when you lay it out like you just did in the various initiatives and channels, and the self-funding nature of EAL's model, it's incredible. And I think it's such a testament to obviously you leading the organization, to the vision of your founders and then the execution of your team, but also the ability of all of you collectively to see where there's opportunities that others just aren't, right? And I think that's part of being able to crack open new opportunities is connecting the dots and seeing patterns in ways that other people haven't yet or might not. And those creative outputs are just incredible. And the social transformation, again, that you're driving is so impactful.
What is so fascinating to me is that new models are emerging all the time. So we have seen a migration of what we call the liquidation market, all the way down to now even the consumers getting into action. The most recent example of how this world is changing is IKEA, the model of IKEA, where now IKEA is using digital platforms to find consumers that bought their product that are getting ready to maybe get rid of that product, and instead of returning it, giving the consumer an opportunity to put that product on an IKEA reseller platform, because that furthers the brand loyalty. It allows that product to re-enter the circular economy. And therefore, to your point, I believe that, it is a complex thing, but in complexity also comes opportunity. But again, going back to the must follow rules, if you know the people in the market and you have to put the time to join the right organizations and forge the relationships, the idea of the dynamic nature of this business is you must continue to think about problem solving. And I believe that anybody in this world that we live in, supply chain and circular economy, it's a problem solver. And I think that you and I have had discussions. What do we do here? Okay, what about this? And so when you have that and you have the resources to keep moving, I think that models like the Charity Hub that are utilizing the commercial vehicle that enables you being a for-profit private company, that there are some things that EAL cannot do. And there are some things that EAL can do that will benefit your model. The concept is that, to your point, the pie is so big. The model of what is considered surplus today is being completely redefined. And AI, I think that that's where it will become clear to see who continues to be a thought leader and in the vanguard and in the innovation space, and the smaller organizations that are very good at what they do, but they may not have had the opportunity to scale when it was possible. I think that now is really more expensive and more complex to scale, but embracing ERP, supply chain, digital transformation, which is something that EAL did about 3 years ago, gave us the platform today to be speaking with experts in your field like yourselves to say, how is this world changing and what place do we find here?
We all have such unique positions in this ecosystem. And as organizations, right, we bring unique strengths and unique assets. You mentioned yourself that, the Charity Hub as a for-profit social enterprise gives us different type of flexibility, and we can play a little bit of a different role than an organization might be able to as a 501c3 in the US or as a charity in Canada. So there's, again, we kind of keep coming back to this notion of the importance of partnership and collaboration, bringing these strengths together, these complementary strengths together, so that we can help each other and ultimately expand the opportunities that are available. And, let's face it, that's important in the for-profit space for sure. Everybody's looking for expanded markets and customer bases and market share. But for us, where we're, sort of 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the for-profit space, it's still really important. And the main way that I think we can expand not only our opportunities, but then the impact that we're generating through those opportunities is by working together and by carving out what those roles and relationships can look like and leveraging one another's strengths, which I think we're doing a very good job at exploring and getting some good proof points in place between EAL and the Charity Hub.
The distinction about the for-profit and the non-profit that you referenced and that you are highlighted and underscoring is one of the reasons EAL early on was recognized as an innovator. Back in 1985, I believe it was, I was just brand new in this country, and it didn't have a dimension of where my life would end up. But I do recognize the reverence and the importance and the respect of awards and accolades. And back here, I have all kinds of things to prove that I still believe in those things. But at that time, the White House awarded EAL a very meaningful award that was called the C, for the letter C, flag. And it was a small emblem of recognizing, and I love what it says is that EAL was being recognized as an example for a private public sector collaboration to solve problems. So rather than thinking about, for-profit, non-profit that gets all tangled up, this is, even back then, it was a core value of EAL to be recognized as this distinction that everybody is different, but your strength and our strengths can complement each other. And that's the idea of having a collaboration. And I believe that is how we move society forward. You engage, it's inclusive because, the circular economy is not about charity. It's not. It's about help me solve this problem. And if the contribution is a tax write-off, well, that's part of the shared value. If the contribution is that you will be able to grant scholarships to students, the world is changing, and it's changing fast. And it is okay and it's appropriate to recheck and validate assumptions because that is how we stay relevant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to wrap things up now just to give you a heads up, but I am going to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to share today with the audience? I
love to encourage everyone to look at the Charity Hub and the EAL partnership as a role model of how to collaborate. A long, long time ago, I heard the term co-opetition. This idea that everybody is looking for returns because that is exciting and you get to see things that you normally would not see, like we see a snowblower in July and we get really excited. The idea is that what I would like to encourage everyone is to be brave, to venture into learning more about the amazing collaborations that are happening. Another thing is to know that there are organizations, trade organizations, thought leaders that are also beginning to encourage colleges and universities to embrace the curricula for circular economy. This is a big piece of business in the economy, 3% of the GDP in returns. I mean, how can that possibly be? And I just, for good measure today, I wanted to make sure that the framework for things like policy, tax write-off, that they continue to support this business. And so far, I think that we will see that part of the economy will continue to encourage corporations to do the right thing. And partners like the Charity Hub with the EAL creatively solve problems together. So the only thing that I would like to add is that thank you for inviting us to be part of your world. Thank you for including EAL's mission as a example, as a blueprint for what social transformation looks like.
Blueprint is a perfect word. And of course, we thank you also for your partnership and being open to the possibilities that a different twist on our models might actually produce some shared value, as you said. And I think we continue to demonstrate that it does. And I believe there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to do that moving forward. There's a lot of moving parts in this ecosystem, as we've talked about. And I think your advice is great. You've got to always keep your eyes open. You've got to be willing to look at new ways of doing things, whether it's adopting technology like AI or whether it is considering a partnership with somebody that you might not have previously. Excuse me, the notion of co-opetition, exactly like I mentioned, we could be considered competitors at the highest level because we're both looking for excess goods to further our mission, but together we're much stronger. And now the importance of list making is reinforced with me too. So that is in my head of your top three most important things for solid partnerships, especially within the context of the circular economy. So we've covered a lot of ground. I so appreciate the time with you. I always love our conversations. I'm glad that this time we actually recorded it so we can share it with broader audiences as well. And I really look forward to continuing to work with you, Claudia. So thank you so much for today and for everything in our partnership.
Thank you, Shari. Best of luck at your networking event in Calgary. Is that Calgary? And thank you again for reaching out. This would not have happened if you had not had the generosity to invite us for the conversation. And let's do it again.
Okay, we absolutely will. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing.